So let's get to this discussion of God is dead in the gay science and thus spoke Zarathustra. So he famously summarized his insights into modern nihilism with the line God is dead in section 125 of the gay science. So we discover there that humanity killed God, and we discover later in other works that what he means by this is out of the scientific will to truth. So the scientific exploration of all beings led to a point where kind of God as an anchoring epistemic and moral principle is no longer tenable. Remember, too, here, the death of God is the death of the Christian God. So people don't accept that as a foundation anymore. But also, let's say the Platonic ideals, um, the notion of a truth in itself. So with God is dead, think of truth is dead, Platonic ideals are dead, these types of things. So all these anchors of how we know things are anchors of our morality. So humanity killed God, and also we find out that the death of God leaves humanity and the earth, beings as a whole, let's say, without a direction or a center of gravity. And we find out that humanity is not ready to hear the words of the one who would expose them to this lack of center. So this is a quote. We'll read this in its entirety, this section 125. It's just, I think it really hits home so much of what is at stake here. So the heading is The Madman. Have you not heard of that madman who lit a lantern in the bright morning hours, ran to the marketplace and cried incessantly, I seek God, I seek God. As many of those who did not believe in God were standing around just then, he provoked much laughter. Has he got lost? Asked one. Did he lose his way like a child? Asked another. Or is he hiding? Is he afraid of us? Has he gone on a voyage? Emigrated? Thus they yelled and laughed. The madman jumped into their midst and pierced them with his eyes. Whither is God? He cried. I will tell you, we have killed him, you and I. All of us are his murderers. But how did we do this? How could we drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What were we doing when we unchained this earth from its sun? Whither is it moving now? Whither are we moving? Away from all suns? Are we not plunging continually? And backward, sideward, forward, and in all directions? Is there still any up or down? So again, as I said, that point of there's no direction. There's no right, wrong, true, false. There's without a foundation, without a center point. Are we not straying as through an infinite nothing? Do we not feel the breath of empty space? Has it not become colder? Is not night continually closing in on us? Do we not need to light lanterns in the morning? Do we not hear nothing as yet of the noise of the grave diggers who are burying God? Do we smell nothing as yet of the divine decomposition? God's too decompose. God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. I'll just make a point on this. God is dead. God remains dead is an allusion to the Hegelian dialectic. So for the Hegelian dialectic, he points to Christianity as a privileged way in which the spirit unfolds historically in time. So the spirit or the idea unfolds for Hegel as this action of positing one thing, usually translated as thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? So it unfolding in time. So in that unfolding, we can have the positing of of God, of God dying as the Christian God does, and then being resurrected in a synthesis that brings humanity back in line with the divine. Okay, so this synthesis of the human and the divine. So it's a reference to the Christian mythology of the dying God who resurrects. But it's also a reference to Hegel's adoption of that as part of the unfolding of the spirit in time that will be resurrected in a new sublation. Here, no, though God remains dead and we have killed him. God is dead, God remains dead. It's not going to be sublated into a higher synthesis. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood off us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement? What sacred games shall we have to invent? Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? There has never been a greater deed. And whoever is born after us, for the sake of this deed, he will belong to a higher history than history hitherto. That's a question. I think that Zarathustra kind of, thus spoke Zarathustra will picks up on, as we'll see, this trope of the madman, picks up on the notion of God is dead. But the question is, what is his history afterwards? Are we going to have a higher history of the overman, let's say, that we'll talk about in a second, that is, let's say, capable of this deed of overcoming humanity as it is, or the last man, and that's the danger. Here the madman fell silent and looked again at his listeners. They too were silent and stared at him in astonishment. At last he threw his lantern to the ground, and it broke into pieces and went out. I have come too early, he said. My time is not yet. This tremendous event is still on its way, still wandering. It has not yet reached the ears of men. Lightning and thunder require time. The light of the stars requires time. Deeds, though done, still require time to be seen and heard. This deed is still more distant from them than the most distant stars, and yet they have done it themselves. It has been related further that on the same day, the madman forced his way into several churches and there struck up his Requiem aeternam Deo. Led out and called to account, he is said always to have replied nothing but, what after all are these churches now if they are not the tombs and sepulchres of God? So the people don't react, right? The people, he realizes the people can't hear these words yet. They're not ready for it. And we'll see this is very much the what happens to Thus Spoke Zarathustra in Thus Spoke Zarathustra to Zarathustra as he goes to the people in the marketplace. Um, it's it, it's also reminiscent, first of all, I'll just say, to the philosopher who returns to the cave in Plato's Republic. So he's also going to be ridiculed. He's how, what are you talking about? You're not very good at predicting the shadows that come on the wall. So do read that in book 7 of the Republic. But also you see this in the prologue to Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So the Zarathustra seems in a lot of ways, to get to Nietzsche's next book written right after the Gay Science, he seems like another incarnation of this madman. So he asserts that God is dead. Notably, in the prologue, he says this to himself. He does not say God is dead to the market, the general populace. I think it could be like this is the madman after realizing, Zarathustra is like the madman after realizing that that is not the way to teach the people. He asserts that God is dead, as I said. He also teaches the eternal return of the same, a concept that's first introduced by Nietzsche in The Gay Science in section 341. Note, section 341 is the first statement of this eternal recurrence of the same. Then the next section, section 342, are the exact same lines of the opening of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, except he has as a header incipit tragedia. So the tragedy begins. So the eternal return, Zarathustra as teaching the eternal return, is tied in some way to the tragic. And it's about this notion, I think, and the affirming existence as it is without an external justification, an otherworldly justification.